In this video, we're going to replace the front brake rotors and wheel bearings that are integrated in a 2004 Ford Ranger two-wheel drive configuration. Once the wheel is removed, we're first going to remove the dust cap from the rotor using a pair of pliers. Next, we're going to remove the cotter pin by bending it down with a pair of needle nose pliers and pull it through the top. You can use a hammer to help assist with this. Once the pin is out, we will remove the nut cover, followed by the nut. For this, we will use a 1 1/16 inch socket. It was pretty loose when we approached this vehicle. We were able to take it off by hand. In order to remove the brake caliper, we'll have to loosen 2 bolts on the rear side of the caliper. Once those bolts are removed, we will remove the caliper from the rotor. We want to use care when hanging the rotor with a bungee cord so that we don't overextend or tear the brake lines. We'll set this off to the side. With the caliper out of the way, next we can remove the rotor. First, we're going to take off the washer that holds the bearing and the first bearing. We will be replacing this bearing along with another one on the other side, but for now we're going to set it aside. Here is our new rotor. We opted for the ones with the zinc coating because we live in a climate where they salt the roads frequently. Here is the second bearing, the one that goes on the back side of the rotor, part number A5. And we're going to grease these bearings. As we can see, it came with a new bearing race, which we don't need because there is one already in the new rotor. We will now apply high temperature wheel bearing grease to the bearings. It's easier to get the grease on the inside parts of the bearing, inside all of the rollers, all the way around, if you put some grease down in your hand and then press the bearing down into your palm to force the grease. And as you can see, it should come out through the other side. You can see the red dots there coming through. And that's how you know that the bearing is filled with grease. This backside bearing is held in and sealed with a seal, which goes up against the hub on the vehicle. We can see it's rubber with a metal component on the inside. It is a rather tight fit, so it needs to be pressed into place. In this case, we were able to tap it in using a block of wood. We did not want to put too much pressure on any individual part of the seal, so the wood is somewhat softer and offered even distribution when tapping the seal in. We can see that the seal is now seated in the rotor. We're going to make sure that that axle spline is clean and slide the new rotor onto the shaft. Next, we will be doing the outside bearing, the one that was being held on by the washer when we first took off the old rotor. This is the smaller bearing, and in a similar fashion, we will pack this bearing with grease. Now that this bearing is properly greased, we can put it onto the shaft inside of the rotor, followed by the washer, which we will also apply some grease to. Next, we will resecure the locking nut onto the spline and get it about hand tight where it was before. We do not want to over tighten this, as it could create pressure on the bearings. Once the nut is on, we will follow up with the nut cover or locking key, and then lastly follow up with the cotter pin. We will reinsert the pin, tap it into place, and then fix it and bend it with our needle nose pliers to complete the reassembly. Now that the rotor is complete, we are working on replacing the brake pads. So we will remove the caliper pad holder and take off the old pad clips, and then clean up the caliper with a wire brush. After that, we will take our new pads and new pad clips and grease them up properly. We apply some grease on the back of the pads on the metal plates, as well as on the ends where the slides operate and are held within the clips. Next, we're going to take our new brake pads, starting with the inside one, press it into the clip, make sure it is properly seated, and then the opposing side. Once the brake pads are properly installed, we will slide the caliper back onto the rotor and secure it with the 2 bolts on the back side. Make sure that these are tight. This completes the job. Don't forget to reinstall your dust cover over the rotor and reinstall the wheel, tightening the nuts in a cross pattern. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Let us know in the comments if you have any questions or concerns regarding this repair, and we'll see you in the next one.